is, who do you think you are? As a matter of fact, we're insulted that you think more of yourself than we do. You think you ought to have more than we think you ought to have, and you done made us mad. We're offended that you would have the gall to suggest that you got a destiny that didn't nobody tell me about. Yeah, they were going in for the kill, but here's what I found amusing. When there was no room for him in the end, they were cool. But when he said the kingdom of the Lord is at hand, they got offended. When he was running for his life through Egypt at the age of 2, they were cool. But when it was that he found himself in his rightful place, they were offended. When he was teaching in the temple at 12 years old, they were cool. But now that it is that he's grown and walking in his purpose, they're offended. Do you know anybody like that? Do you know anybody like that, that when you was on welfare, they was cool? But now that you own your own business, they're offended. When you were strung out on drugs, they was cool. But now that you done went back to work, they're offended. Now that you done got cleaned up, they're offended. When you was dropping out of school, they were cool. But now that you're working on your second degree, they're offended. Oh, I'm going to bow down your lane in a minute. When you was having kids out of wedlock, they was cool. But now that you're sending out wedding invitations, they're offended. You was clubbing Thursday, Friday, and 2 times on Saturday, they was cool. But now they can't find you, but on Wednesday night and Sunday morning at Club Jesus, they offended. Talking about you changed. Well, I hope so. It's been 10 years. Oh, I must be in the wrong church. The music industry changed. The auto industry changed. The president of the United States changed. The $5 bill changed. But I can't change. Where they do that at? 10 years don't went by and you're still doing the same stuff, going to the same places. Something is wrong with it. Let me share this with you. Y'all sit down. Y'all sit down. My daughter Mackenzie. Now I'm really just about done. My daughter Mackenzie. 3 days ago, she come running down the stairs with a pacifier in her mouth. Now she has not sucked on a pacifier in 3 years. I can't even spell pacifier. That's how long it's been. 3 days ago, she come downstairs with a pacifier in her mouth. Shoo. Later on that night, I'm thinking, you know, that's a toy. That's something. I don't know what that was. Then I see her in the living room, pacifier on her mouth. Then the next day came. She shoots by me at the dining room table, pacifier in her mouth. Her brothers were sitting right there at the table with me, and I just struck up a conversation with them. I said, y'all know, I don't know whose birthday is Friday, but it can't be Mackenzie's. Because 6-year-olds don't suck pacifiers, do they? They said, no, 6-year-olds, no, they don't. I didn't think so. I thought it was Kenzie, but it couldn't be Kenzie because she'd been running around with this pacifier in her mouth, and she couldn't be about to turn 6 on Friday with a pacifier in her mouth. That couldn't be her. So I don't know who we're going to give these presents to and who we're going to reward and who we're going to have this birthday party for on Friday, but I know it ain't going to be Kenzie because she can't be turning 6 with a pacifier in her mouth. And I turned to the side, Kenzie was gone. Then she popped back up, no pacifier. I didn't say nothing. I went on to bed. Then the next day, we was over grandmother's house. This is last night. We were over grandmother's house. I said, Kenzie, whatever happened to that pacifier you had in your mouth? She said, I threw that thing away. And I said, why'd you throw that thing away? She said, I was thinking. 6-year-olds don't have no pacifiers in their mouth. It's no reason for me to have a pacifier when I'm about to turn 6 Friday. I got birthday presents, I got a party to have, and to tell you the truth, that was just a toy anyway. I didn't even like that thing. I don't even know why I had it in my mouth. I don't know who I'm talking to, but some of you about to turn 20, about to turn 30, 40, 50, I suggest that before the clock strikes 12, whatever you've
trash. Tell the truth, shame the devil. You don't even like him. I mean it anyway. Turn me up, turn me up. Toys R Us said, I don't want to grow up. The devil is a lie. I want to grow up. I want to grow into his word. I want to grow in wisdom. I want to grow in faith. When I was a child, I spake as a child. I did as a child. But when I became a man, slap somebody upside the head. Say, grow up, grow up, grow up, grow up, grow up, grow up, grow up. Stop trying to be seen all the time. Stop trying to show out all the time. Stop trying to be sexy all the time. I got a news flash for you. In 2011, saved is the new sexy. I look good going to church. I look good reading my Bible. I look good on my knees praying. I look good at the stoplight crying, talking about for every mountain you brought me over, for every trial you've seen me through. I got 10 cars behind me. I'm going in. Why are you going in, Pastor? Because I'm grown, because I'm grown, because I'm grown. This is the decade that I'm finished with foolishness. This is the decade that I let go of lustfulness. This is the decade that I dismiss drugs. This is the decade that I make the most of my marriage. This is the decade I crucify complaints. This is the decade I burn my little black book. Or should I say Facebook? Why would you do that, Pastor Drane? Because my destiny is at the door. It's interesting to me, y'all be seated. As I go to a close, it's interesting to me that they would call Jesus to the carpet, no pun intended, about being a carpenter. It's interesting to me. They tried to tear him down with it, but the more I thought about it, the more I realized they were right. Jesus is very much a carpenter. Carpenters, they cut stuff. They fit stuff. They assemble things. Oh yeah, Jesus was a carpenter. Carpenters specialize in what's called finishing work. Oh yeah, Jesus was a carpenter. Carpenters work from blueprints. They receive their instructions from a master plan. And they do exactly what they've been told to do. They join materials together that were separate. They use nails and they use staples and they use adhesive and whatever else they need to put things together. Carpenters, they check the accuracy of their work. They use levels and they use rules and they use plumbs and they use bobs and they use framing squares because they want to make sure that everything is straight and perfectly aligned. Yeah, Jesus was a carpenter. He was a carpenter. He had to be a carpenter. When I look at carpenters, carpenters have to be able to carry out all aspects of a job, not just one single task. But a carpenter has to be able to change locks. Carpenter has to be able to lay carpet. A carpenter has to be able to fix and repair broken things. Isn't this the carpenter? Is what they said. When I look at the translation in the Greek, tekton, it means carpenter, but it really is describing a contractor, specifically a builder. How many of you know that Jesus is a master builder? Oh, I'm in Bible country. He said, destroy this temple, and in 3 days, I'll raise it up. How many of you know that in my life, Jesus has been Mr. Fix-It? When I had something that needed to be mending, he was the one I called. When my spirit sprung a leak, he was the one that patched me up. When I was crooked, he was the one that made me straight. When I was separated from God, he was the one that came in and built a bridge for me to climb over. When I was out of position, he cut me up and he fit me in my rightful place. Anybody ever been under construction and called on the carpenter? Anybody know that when you are level to the ground, when you were looking just like this piece of work right here, almost level to the ground, Jesus came in and he picked you up. But not only did he pick you up, but then he dusted you off. Not only did he dust you off, but he turned you around. When it was that my sins were as scarlet, he just pulled out his paintbrush and he touched me up over here and he touched me up over there and he made me brand new. When it was that the devil had locked me out of my promise, he snatched the keys out of his hand, said, behold, I stand at the door and knock. And I was scared to open the door because I knew what that meant. I knew that if I opened the door, I was going to have to change some things in my life. I knew that if I opened the door, I was going to have to leave some fake, phony friends behind. I knew that if I opened the door, then there was going to be a certain level of uncertainty in front of me. But something told me to open the door anyway and to step out on faith. So I grabbed the door and I opened it. And Jesus was standing there. And he came on into my life. But he didn't leave me where he found me. He brought me through the door. But I'm nervous. But I don't know. But what about my friends? But I jumped on in anyhow. And my life has never been the same. He never let me fall. He never let me down. And now because he brought me through the door, I don't want to be the only one to come through the door. But Jesus, bring them through the door. Bring them through the door, destiny. Bring them to their new future. Bring them to the altar. Bring them to their rightful place. Bring them to their place of promise. Bring them to the place of fulfillment. Bring them into prosperity. Bring them into wholeness. Bring them into happiness. Bring them into joy. Bring them into peace. Bring them into power. Bring them, bring them, bring them. Bring them through the door. The altar is open, but only after you come through the door. Because once you come through the door of destiny, then there's some praying that's going to have to take place. Come on, I want you to surround this altar. I want you to flood this altar if you believe that this is the decade of destiny and you have walked through the door. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. You've walked through the door to finances. You walked through the door to healing. You walked through the door of blessedness. You walked through the door of favor. You've walked through the door of faith. You've walked through the door. You've walked through the door. You've walked through the door. Destiny's door. Destiny's door.